Hello, my name is Bryce Raymond, and this is my audience. Your child may have your father's eyes, but have you ever wondered why? It all comes down to DNA, which is the blueprint of life. DNA is found in the human, in your cells, in the nucleus on chromosomes. You have 23 pairs of chromosomes. One pair is inherited from your mom, and one pair is inherited from your dad. In humans, all the pairs are pretty similar except for one, which differs between men and women. Men have one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. Females, on the other hand, have two X chromosomes. On these chromosomes are these things called genes. According to my molecular biology textbook written by Bruce Alberts in 2008, a gene is defined as a region of DNA that is transcribed as a single unit and carries information for a discrete hereditary characteristic. So these genes carry traits that can be expressed and what ends up making you, you. So these genes can either be classified as dominant or recessive. If a gene is dominant, that means if it is present on your chromosomes, that trait will be expressed. And it can either be with another copy of a dominant gene, or it can mask a copy of a recessive gene. A recessive gene can only be shown when there is no dominant gene by it, and you need two recessive genes to be present in order to express that trait. After learning the basics of genetics, you can determine the heritability of physical traits based on inherited chromosomes. Such things could include hair color, your height, your skin color, and many other things. One of these things is eye color. In a simple example, the brown eye gene is dominant over the blue eye gene. So if you have brown eyes, you either have two copies of the brown eye gene, or you have one copy of the dominant brown eye gene that's masking the recessive blue eye gene. If you have blue eyes, you have two copies of the recessive blue eye genes. Since the blue eye gene is recessive, that means it can be masked by the dominant gene, so it's going to be less common. In a study, about 1 in 6 Americans have blue eyes. So say you and your spouse have blue eyes, then your child will definitely have blue eyes because you don't have that dominant brown eye gene to pass on to your child that will mask the blue eyes. If you and your spouse have brown eyes, then you both could have one copy of the brown eye gene masking a blue-eyed recessive gene, and when you pass on the genes to your child, you can either pass on that brown gene or the blue-eyed gene. So your child can either have brown eyes or blue eyes. Not only do genes on chromosomes determine the heritability of physical traits, they can also determine the heritability of genetic disorders. Such disorders are cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, and Huntington's. Another one that's of a lesser severity is color blindness. Color blindness is an X-linked recessive disorder. So that means all the X chromosomes have to have the gene in order for the person to be colorblind. So for males, since they only have one X chromosome, they are more likely to be colorblind. Females, on the other hand, have two X chromosomes. So even if one X chromosome has a colorblind gene, the other one is dominant and will mask it, so they won't be colorblind. But they can be carriers and pass on the gene to their children. In a scientific journal published in 2014, about 8% of men with Northern European ancestry are colorblind. So next time you're thinking about having children, keep in mind the facts that we talked about today, so you aren't surprised when your child might look a little different than expected. Thank you.